What is up guys, and welcome to my latest video here on MPC Vids. And today, as you can see, I have the 2500 on the table, and I'm really happy to say that I've got it into a position where I can actually kind of use this again, and I have actually managed to make a couple of beats yesterday with it. So I'm really happy about that, and I wanted to say huge thanks to you all for leaving comments on my previous video explaining what I could do to make the tact switches work again. The things that I've tried seem to have worked. Some of the buttons still aren't 100% usable, but at least they are now usable, because before they weren't usable at all. So I'm going to go through some of the things that I figured out when I was working on this yesterday. Some of them were just kind of stupid, my fault kind of thing. Other things I need to go into a bit more detail about, so we'll do that today. And hopefully this could help you fix some of the things on either your 2500 or a similar MPC device that has these kind of clicky little buttons, that has the tact switches. Hopefully these little tips and tricks can help. So this basically all started with tap tempo, and funnily enough I discovered that tap tempo wasn't actually broken at all. So it was something to do with the way that I actually had this button set up. Now the way I figured this out was that I found out if you hold tap tempo and turn the jog wheel, you can move around things in increments of 10. So for example, if I go down to the tempo here, if I hold tempo and scroll down, you can see it's going down in increments of 10. So as soon as I did that, I kind of realized, well, that's working. So the tact switch underneath tap tempo must be responding to what I'm doing, because if I don't hold that button, you can see it goes up in ones. And then if I hold it, there we go, we're going up in increments of 10. So the tap tempo button wasn't broken. It was something to do with the settings. Now, I don't know if this is specific to JJOS or whether this is on all software for the MPC 2500, but if you press mode and go to other, which is pad 10, if you go across to MISC, you can see here on the screen it says tap average. So if we go down to this, I don't know what that was set at previously, but it wasn't working because of the way that this was set up. So a lot of people have this as 4. I've set mine to 2. Basically what this does is takes an average of the tempo based on X amount of presses of tap tempo. So X is specified here. So over 2 presses, it's going to take the average and determine the tap tempo. So I've kept mine on 2. And if we go back to main, if I tap tempo now, you can see that that's responding fine. I got 75 BPM. So I've managed to fix tap tempo. That's great. Now the next thing that was causing me a lot of problems was the jog wheel. I had someone offer me a new jog wheel. Thank you very much for that. I knew it wasn't broken. It was just kind of the way I'd reassembled the device. So I do want to explain this because you have to be really careful with this. I've actually worn some of my dial off because it was catching on the actual case of the MPC. And the reason is because this really needs to sit down properly on the wheel that's underneath it. So this is just a plastic cover that goes over a wheel. And basically you can put it on the top of that and it still feels like it's functioning because you can turn the wheel and it moves. But when you put the case back on, it's sat too high and this case kind of pushes down on it and catches it and it stops it from working properly. That's what happened with mine. So after a few minutes of working out what was going on, it turns out that the cover kind of needs to slide onto the mechanism underneath it or onto the component. So if you ever remove the jog wheel cover, make sure it goes back on properly and seats properly, because it does trick you to thinking that it's working and it's sat properly, but you need to actually make sure it's pressed right down onto the component underneath. Now that I've done that, you can see my jog wheel's working absolutely fine and it isn't catching on the case at all. So that was another problem that I fixed, so very happy about that as well. So there were the kind of stupid things that I'd done and was being a bit of an idiot about, but the rest of it was basically tact switches not working properly or not responding. So bank C wasn't working. I don't think 16 levels was working properly. More crucially, down on the cursor wasn't working properly and neither was left. So that was making it impossible to sort of navigate around the screen. Main wasn't working properly and window was kind of temperamental. Again, really integral button, because once you go into a menu like this, you need to be able to get back to the main screen. I can do that with window in some instances. In other instances, does kind of work sometimes, but other times it doesn't. I find that I have to press it really hard to get it to work. The start and end of bar buttons were also pretty ropey, but I managed to kind of get those working as well. So what I did was a combination of 2 things for the tact switches. First of all, I picked up some contact cleaner, so hopefully this is in focus for you guys. This is WD-40, but please be very careful, because WD-40 do a lot of different sprays, lubricants, that kind of thing. Do not buy the wrong one. Make sure you get contact cleaner. So you can see here, the brand is WD-40, but this is actually specialist contact cleaner. This is designed for electrical circuits, components, and switches. So you guys offered up one in the comments quite a lot, but I think you were all based in America. For me to get the same one that you were suggesting, it was going to cost me like £25, which is about $30 for the same sort of size as this. This cost me £8, which is about $10. So it's half the price, and it basically does exactly the same thing. It's just a contact cleaner, and on the back it even says this product is excellent for cleaning oil, dirt, flux residue, and condensation from sensitive electronic and electrical equipment. It rapidly penetrates hard to reach areas and dries quickly without leaving any residue. So that's exactly what I needed for the tact switches, basically. So I've used a combination of this, and weirdly I found out that you can flick tact switches and that can get them to work again. I think over time they just get kind of clogged up and stuck. So once you have this open with the top off, I'll show a picture now, you'll be able to see all the buttons sat on the circuit. Once you pop those off, there's a little tact switch underneath, and you basically just have to flick it like this. And that's not even exaggerating, that's exactly what you do. Keep doing that a few times, and eventually the button kind of loosens up again and starts working and starts responding. So I was really skeptical of that working when I read that, and I thought, that seems a bit stupid, I don't know if that's going to work. But I would say that around 80% of the success I had with getting these buttons working again was down to the fact that I just gave them a good flicking. So a combination of the contact cleaner and the flicking really seems to have helped get a lot of these buttons working again. Now, they're not brilliant, and I think some of these do still need replacing, but at least I can kind of use the machine again. So you can see, for example, I'll show you some things here. So main and load. If I just press main now, you can see I'm not getting a response from it. Doesn't want to work at all, but if I hit it really hard, it works. I don't know why that is, but if I just have to hit it hard like that for it to work, that's absolutely fine by me. If I go into 16 levels, window works a little bit better than main, so that's good. Sometimes window can get you back to your home screen. The cursors, which were all broken, they're a little bit temperamental still. Here we go, I'm going to the right and then back to the left, up and down. Sometimes they don't respond, but usually the next time they do, so that's not too bad. I'm able to kind of navigate around here now again, and that's really useful. There's a lot of places, such as load, where instead of using the arrows to get down things like this, which can be a little bit sort of glitchy because of the tact switches, I can actually just use the jog wheel anyway. So there's usually some kind of workaround that I can do in order to be able to get around the system. Main, I would say, is probably the biggest problem. I wish that just worked normally because it is pretty frustrating. And also the start and go to buttons down here, they're causing me a lot of problems. I'll just show you that quickly as well. So if I go to bar and set this to something crazy like 25, so you can see here that I can navigate up those steps really easily with end and counting up those nicely. But if I start going back with start, you can see I don't really get a response most of the time I press that button. It's not working at all now. There we go, now it's working again. So that is definitely a cause for concern, and the back to start, all the way to the start. Yeah, that one's just not very happy at all. There we go, it's worked now, but yeah, it's not great. But again, I can use the jog wheel here as well. So there's a workaround there. I would love those to work properly, but they don't, so I have to kind of use the jog wheel sometimes. But all in all, most of the tact switches now do actually respond in some shape or form eventually. So that's definitely an improvement to what I had previously. Like I said, the jog wheel working again, tap tempo working again as well. That's really, really good news. Everything else seems to be working absolutely perfectly. All the buttons up here are great. The sliders are great. The pads are responding really, really nicely as if they're new. So that's all really good news as well. You may have noticed that I've popped some custom dials on here as well. My plan is to buy 2 more black ones to go on these two here. So then I have 2 black, the red for the record, and then black. These are DJ Tech Tools fatty knobs if you want to buy them yourself. I really like the feel of these. They've got kind of rubberized feel to them. But yeah, if I get 2 more black ones for here, I think that'll look really nice. And then eventually, I actually want to change these pads for black pads as well. I think that'll look really cool. So black dials, black pads. I think this machine is going to look great. So there we go. Overall, I somehow have managed to get the 2500 back into a position that's usable. Again, thank you very much for all your advice. It definitely helped, especially with the contact cleaner. I didn't even think of that previously. So thank you for that, and hopefully I'll be cooking up a little bit on this, even though it might be still a little bit frustrating to use. Maybe I'll post some beats in the coming weeks. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget you can support what I do with the beat pack that I sell. There's a link in the description if you need some new drums. Go and check that out. It's instant download at the checkout. But apart from that, thank you all for the support. Keep making beats, and I'll be back again with another video very soon.